Welcome to Speak English with me.
Improve your vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation with our engaging lessons.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Speak English with me. I'm Sam.
And I'm Emma. We're so happy you've joined us today because we're talking about something that almost everyone gets asked at some point when speaking English: your family. It sounds like a simple topic, but many English learners tell us they become nervous after the first few sentences.
That's true. Someone asks, "Tell me about your family," and suddenly your mind goes blank. You know words like mother, father, brother, and sister, but you're not sure how to keep the conversation going.
That's why today's episode isn't about memorizing a long vocabulary list. It's about learning how to have a real conversation. By the end, you'll have plenty of natural phrases and ideas that you can use in everyday life.
Before we begin, we have a quick favor to ask. If these conversations are helping you become more confident in English, please subscribe to the channel and share this episode with another English learner. Your support encourages us to create more podcasts that help you speak naturally, not just memorize grammar.
Thank you so much. We know many of you listen while commuting, exercising, cooking dinner, or relaxing after a busy day. It's always nice to imagine all of us learning together, even though we're in different parts of the world.
So, Emma, let me ask you something. When you meet someone for the first time, how often does the conversation turn to family?
Very often. It usually happens without anyone planning it. You introduce yourself, talk about work or studies, and then someone says, "Do you have any brothers or sisters?" From there, the conversation grows naturally.
I like that, because family is something we can all talk about. Every family is different, but everyone has stories.
They do. Some stories are funny, some are touching, and some make you smile years later. That's one reason family is such a great conversation topic.
Many learners think they need complicated English to sound interesting, but that's not really true.
Not at all. Imagine someone asks me, "What's your family like?" I could simply say, "We're very close and we enjoy spending time together." Those are easy words, but they sound warm and natural.
Then I might ask, what do you usually do together?
And I'd answer, "We often have dinner together on weekends and we never stop talking once we sit down at the table."
That answer paints a picture. I can almost imagine everyone laughing, telling stories, and enjoying the evening.
That's the secret. Instead of giving short facts, add one little detail. Those details make people want to know more.
Let's try another example. If someone asks, "Do you have any siblings?" you could say, "Yes, I have an older sister."
That's a good start, but you can make it sound more personal by adding something like, "She's always looking after me, even though I'm an adult now."
I know a lot of people who would smile when they hear that, because older brothers and sisters often keep treating us like children.
They really do. My cousin is older than me, and every time we meet, she still asks if I've eaten enough or if I'm getting enough sleep.
That's sweet.
It is. Sometimes it's a little embarrassing, but deep down I know she cares.
Those little moments are wonderful because they show personality. They also help you practice English that people genuinely use.
Here's a useful phrase. You can say, "We get along really well."
That means you have a good relationship with someone.
For example, "My brother and I get along really well because we enjoy the same hobbies."
Or maybe your relationship is different. You could say, "We argued a lot when we were younger, but we're much closer now."
That's a sentence many listeners will relate to. Relationships change as we grow older.
They certainly do. I remember thinking my younger cousin was so annoying when we were kids. He wanted to follow me everywhere.
Let me guess, things changed?
Completely. Now he's one of the first people I call when I need advice. It's funny how time changes the way we see people.
I love stories like that because they remind us that families aren't perfect. We have disagreements, misunderstandings, funny moments, and wonderful memories. That's what makes every family unique.
Here's another expression that sounds very natural. You can say, "We're a close family."
Or, "We don't live near each other anymore, but we stay in touch."
Stay in touch is a very useful phrase. It simply means you continue communicating with someone through calls, messages, or video chats.
Even if your relatives live in another city or another country, you can still say, "We stay in touch every week."
See how simple these expressions are? You don't need difficult vocabulary, you just need words that people use every day.
As we continue our conversation, we're going to explore more ways to describe your parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents, and other relatives. We'll also share some personal stories that might remind you of your own family and help you speak with more confidence the next time someone asks, "Tell me about your family."
You know, Emma, one thing I've noticed is that when people talk about their family, they often focus on names and relationships, but they forget to describe the people themselves. That's where a conversation starts to feel interesting.
I agree. If I only say, "I have a brother," the conversation doesn't have much to work with. But if I say, "I have a younger brother who's always making everyone laugh," you've already learned something about him.
That's a great example because you've introduced a person, not just a family member.
And people naturally become curious. They might ask, "What's the funniest thing he's ever done?" Suddenly, you're sharing a story instead of answering questions one by one.
That's how real conversations grow. They don't feel like interviews. They move from one idea to another because both people are interested.
Let's imagine we're meeting for coffee, and you ask me about my parents.
I'd probably say, "So, what are your parents like?"
I might answer, "They're quite different from each other. My dad is calm and patient, while my mom is energetic and loves keeping everyone busy."
I like that answer because you compared two people. You didn't just describe them separately.
Comparing people is something native speakers do all the time. You could say, "My sister is much more outgoing than I am," or "My brother is the quiet one in the family."
The quiet one. That's such a natural expression.
It is. Families often have little labels like that. There's the funny one, the organized one, the adventurous one, the one who's always late, or the one who remembers every birthday.
Every family seems to have someone who becomes the unofficial photographer.
Oh yes, they're always saying, "Don't move, let me take one more picture."
And 20 pictures later, everyone is still standing there, smiling a little less than they were at the beginning.
That's so true. Then a week later, they send every single photo to the family group chat.
Speaking of group chats, have you noticed how different families communicate?
Definitely. Some families send messages every day. Others might only chat once or twice a week, but when they do, they have a long conversation.
Here's a useful phrase for everyone listening. If you want to say that your family talks regularly, you can say, "We check in with each other every few days."
Check-in simply means contacting someone to see how they're doing.
For example, my grandmother lives alone, so I call her every Sunday just to check in.
That's a lovely sentence because it also shows kindness and care.
Family conversations often include little acts of kindness, don't they?
They do. Sometimes love isn't shown through big speeches. It's shown through simple questions like, "Did you get home safely?" or "Have you had dinner yet?"
Those questions might sound ordinary, but they mean a lot.
They really do. My mother still asks me if I'm carrying a jacket whenever the weather gets cold.
Even if you're perfectly capable of checking the weather yourself.
Even then.
I think parents have a lifelong habit of worrying.
Probably. And many of us don't fully appreciate those little moments until we're older.
That's another thing people can talk about in English. You can describe how your relationship has changed over time.
For example, when I was a teenager, I thought my parents were too strict. Now I understand why they made those decisions.
That's a thoughtful sentence, and it's something many adults can relate to.
Here's another useful expression. I take after my mother.
That's an excellent phrase. When you take after someone, it means you're similar to them, either in appearance or personality.
You could say, "I take after my father because we're both very calm," or "Everyone says I take after my grandmother."
People often ask, "Who do you take after?" It's a very common question.
And if you're not very similar to anyone, you can laugh and say, "I think I'm a mix of everyone."
I like that answer.
Me too. Families rarely fit into perfect categories.
Let's try another short conversation. I'll ask the question, "So, who are you closest to in your family?"
I'd say I'm closest to my older sister. We don't agree on everything, but we can talk for hours about almost anything.
Notice that you didn't say your relationship is perfect.
Because perfect relationships don't really exist. Being close to someone doesn't mean you never disagree. It means you trust each other and enjoy spending time together.
That's a wonderful point. And here's something I'd like our listeners to try. Instead of memorizing one answer, think about one person in your family. Ask yourself these simple questions. What kind of person are they? What makes them special? And what's one memory that always makes you smile? Those questions help you build a conversation naturally. They also make your English sound much more personal.
Before we move on, we'd love to hear from you. If you could describe one member of your family in just 3 words, which 3 words would you choose? Think about your answer before you continue listening.
Don't worry about finding perfect words. The goal is to express yourself. The more you practice talking about real people in your life, the more confident you'll become when these conversations happen naturally.
And in the next part of our conversation, we're going to move beyond descriptions and talk about the memories, traditions, and little family moments that often become the most enjoyable part of any conversation.
You mentioned memories a moment ago, and I think that's where conversations about family become even more meaningful. It's one thing to describe a person, but it's another thing to tell a story about them.
I couldn't agree more. A story gives people a chance to know your family without ever meeting them. Even a simple memory can say so much about the people you grew up with.
Here's a question I love asking friends. What's a family memory that always makes you smile?
I love that question because everyone pauses for a second. You can almost see them searching through old memories before they answer.
And when they finally do, their face usually changes. They smile without even noticing.
One memory always comes to mind for me. Every Sunday afternoon, my family would visit my grandparents. My grandmother would already have tea waiting, and my grandfather would pretend he wasn't hungry. 5 minutes later, he'd be reaching for his 3rd slice of cake.
That's brilliant.
We all knew he was going to do it, but nobody ever mentioned it. It became one of those little family traditions that didn't need an explanation.
I think every family has moments like that. They're not exciting enough to become famous stories, but inside the family, everyone knows them by heart.
That's a lovely way to put it.
In English, sharing memories doesn't have to be complicated. You can begin with phrases like, "One thing I always remember is," or "When I was growing up." Those openings sound very natural.
Let me give another example. When I was growing up, we always ate dinner together. It didn't matter how busy everyone was, we tried to sit at the same table every evening.
That's simple, but it tells me something important about your family.
And someone listening might respond, "Really? My family did the same thing."
That's how connections are made. Shared experiences bring people together.
Here's something else I've noticed. People often think traditions have to be connected to big holidays, but that's not always true.
That's true. A tradition can be something very small.
Maybe every Friday night your family watches a film together.
Maybe someone always cooks breakfast on Sunday mornings.
Or perhaps everyone goes for a walk after dinner whenever they have the chance.
Those routines may seem ordinary when you're living them, but years later, they often become your favorite memories.
They become part of what feels like home.
I really like that sentence.
Home isn't always just a place. Sometimes it's the people, the conversations, the smells from the kitchen, or even the sound of someone laughing in another room.
That reminds me of something from my childhood. Every winter, my family would make hot chocolate together. Looking back, the recipe wasn't anything special, but I can still remember everyone standing in the kitchen, talking about their day while we waited for it to be ready.
Isn't it amazing how our minds remember those little moments?
It really is. At the time, they felt ordinary. Now they feel priceless.
That's another useful word for our listeners. Priceless.
We often use priceless to describe something that's emotionally valuable, not something that's expensive.
So you could say, those memories are priceless.
Here's another conversation that happens quite often. Someone asks, "Who in your family has influenced you the most?"
That's a thoughtful question.
How would you answer it?
I'd probably say my grandmother. She always encouraged me to stay curious and keep learning new things. She never stopped asking questions, even as she got older.
I love that because you've explained why she influenced you.
That's important. Don't stop at the name. Give people the reason.
Maybe your father taught you how to stay calm during difficult situations.
Maybe your older sister encouraged you to become more confident.
Or perhaps a younger brother reminded you not to take life too seriously.
Every influence has a story behind it.
Have you ever noticed that families also create their own jokes?
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes a single word makes everyone laugh, while guests have no idea what's happening.
That's because the joke comes from a memory only the family shares.
My family still laughs about the time I tried to fix a broken chair when I was a teenager.
Let me guess, it didn't go very well.
Let's just say the chair gave up completely about 10 seconds after I proudly announced I'd repaired it.
I can picture everyone's reaction.
Nobody was angry. Everyone laughed so hard that even I couldn't laugh.
Those are wonderful stories because they show that mistakes can become happy memories.
They also make conversations more enjoyable. If someone asks about your family, don't feel like you need to impress them. Tell a genuine story instead.
People remember honesty far more than perfect English.
That's such an encouraging thought.
It really is. Some listeners worry about grammar mistakes, but when you're speaking from the heart, people usually focus on your message.
And every conversation is another chance to improve.
Before we continue, here's something we'd like you to try. Think about one family tradition, no matter how small it is. Maybe it's a special meal, a birthday habit, a holiday activity, or something your family has always done without even thinking about it.
Now, try describing that tradition in English using 3 or 4 sentences. Don't rush. Keep it simple and imagine you're telling the story to a friend who's genuinely interested.
You might be surprised by how much English you already know when you're talking about something that's personal to you.
In our final conversation today, we're going to look at something many learners find difficult. How do you talk about family challenges, different family situations, or changing relationships in a polite and respectful way? We'll finish with some practical expressions and a word tour to help you remember today's most useful English. One thing I really appreciate about conversations about family is that they don't always have to be cheerful. Sometimes they become meaningful because people are honest.
I know what you mean. Life isn't perfect and neither are families. If someone shares that they haven't seen a relative for a long time or that their family lives in different places, you don't need to change the subject. You can respond with kindness.
That's an important skill in English. Sometimes people worry so much about grammar that they forget to listen.
Listening is part of speaking well. When someone tells you something personal, a simple response like, "That must have been difficult," or "I hope things are getting better," can mean much more than trying to say something impressive.
And if you're talking about your own family, remember that you don't have to explain every detail.
That's right. You can keep things polite while still being honest.
For example, you could say, "My family has had its challenges, but we've learned a lot from those experiences."
Or, "We don't always agree with each other, but we still care about one another."
Those sentences sound balanced. They show that relationships can be complicated without sounding negative.
I think that's true for almost every family.
Me too. The people closest to us know our strengths, but they also know our weaknesses. That's why family relationships can teach us so much about patience, forgiveness, and understanding.
As we've talked today, I've been thinking about how my idea of family has changed over the years.
In what way?
When I was younger, I thought family was simply the people who lived in the same house. As I've grown older, I've realized it's also about the people who support you, celebrate your successes, encourage you when things don't go as planned, and remind you that you're never facing life completely alone.
That's beautifully said. I also think our understanding changes with time. As children, we often expect our parents or grandparents to have all the answers. Then one day we realize they're learning, making mistakes, and trying their best just like everyone else.
That realization changes the relationship.
It certainly does. You become more understanding, and you begin to appreciate all the little things they did that you once took for granted.
That's something many listeners might recognize.
And if you're speaking in English, those reflections make wonderful conversation because they're genuine.
Let's imagine someone asks, "What's the most valuable lesson you've learned from your family?"
I'd probably say, "They taught me that kindness costs nothing, but it can completely change someone's day."
That's a lovely answer. What about you?
I'd probably say they taught me that people don't have to be perfect to deserve love and respect.
That's a lesson worth remembering.
Here's another phrase our listeners can use. I've learned a lot from watching my family.
Or, my family has shaped the person I am today.
Shaped is a useful word because it means someone has influenced your character or your way of thinking.
For example, my parents shaped my attitude toward hard work.
Or, growing up with my grandparents shaped the way I see the world.
Notice that these aren't difficult sentences. They're built with everyday words, but they express meaningful ideas.
Before we finish, let's have one final practice conversation. I'll start. So, tell me a little about your family.
I'd be happy to. We're quite different from one another, but that's probably what makes us interesting. Some of us are quiet, some are talkative, and whenever we manage to spend time together, there's always plenty of laughter. We don't always agree, but we support one another, and that's something I'm very grateful for.
That answer feels warm, natural, and complete.
It also leaves room for more questions, which is what good conversations do.
They invite people in instead of ending after one sentence.
Before we say goodbye, let's have a quick word tour and review some expressions you've heard today.
Our first phrase is get along well.
You can get along well with someone if you have a good relationship.
Next is stay in touch.
That means you continue communicating with someone even if you don't see them often.
Check in.
Contact someone to see how they're doing.
Take after.
To be similar to someone in your family, either in appearance or personality.
Close family.
A family whose members have strong relationships and enjoy spending time together.
Priceless memories.
Memories that are emotionally valuable and impossible to replace.
Shape someone.
To influence the kind of person they become.
As always, don't try to memorize every sentence from today's episode.
Choose 2 or 3 expressions that you genuinely like and use them this week. Maybe you'll introduce your family to a classmate, talk with an online language partner, or simply practice speaking to yourself for a few minutes.
The more you connect English with your own experiences, the easier it becomes to remember. You're no longer repeating someone else's sentences. You're telling your own story.
And that's one of the best parts of learning a language. Every new word gives you another way to share your memories, your ideas, and the people who matter most to you.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us. We hope today's conversation has given you more confidence to talk about your family in English, and more importantly, to enjoy those conversations instead of worrying about making every sentence perfect.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we can't wait to have another English conversation with you very soon. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep practicing, and have a wonderful day.